Hello, welcome back to Skyrocket Automotive. I love my job. Have a minute and just drink this in. This is an absolutely immaculate Mark 1 Ford Capri 3 litre GXL. Where'd you start? I'll show you around, don't worry. Just look at it. As you can see, this car hasn't been in a ditch for the last 30 years, which is always a good start. This was on the road about 5 years ago, and it's just been stored. It's been stored somewhere safe. It's been stored somewhere dry. No concerns about rust or anything like that. The owner would like to be able to drive it. They would like it MOT'd. So we're just going to give this beautiful old girl a light recommissioning, and then MOT, and away she goes. One and done. Nice and quick. Right. Okay, I've dried up the worst of the drool. I guess now we open the business end of things. Under here, we should find a 6-banger. Correct, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. With a single Weber carburetor. So no K-jet yet. Well, as we all know, it's what's on the inside that counts, and you'll be pleased to know that's just as spot on. Everything looks in pretty good order. Like I say, it's been sitting, but I see no issues mechanically. That cable tie is just caught on me there, but fan belt looks all good. I believe this has power steering. Let me get some blue roll. We're gonna have a look at the oil level. What we saying, old girl? Ooh. That actually smells really strongly of petrol. I wasn't expecting to see that. Have a sniff. Come on. You see what I mean? It stinks of fuel, man. So I'd say we've been running a little bit rich, not the end of the world. The oil is dark. Quick viscosity test. See, this is going to be one of those cars now where I just have to be petrified the whole time I'm working around it. Okay, the oil still feels like it's doing its job, just very fuely. We might need to look at the carburettor then. That normally smacks of an engine that's either been running massively over rich, or it's got a float issue, or lots of cold starts will do it. Are you gonna? There we go. Quick double dip. Oil's over full, which is a bit of a bummer, but again, that could be petrol. Something to chew on. I'm seeing some crystallized coolant. Let's have a look at the cooling system then. Yeah, that's not been open in a while. We've got coolant, but it doesn't seem much like coolant to me. That looks like rusty water. Best way is to shine a torch in there and see if it's got like a pearlescent color to it, and if it's cloudy. It's cloudy. Oh, I'm seeing deposits. All right, so far, we'd benefit from an oil change, obviously. A coolant flush. Brake fluid. I'm used to this stuff being black on a lot of cars I work on. What are we saying? It looks like it's all right from the outside. We got some schmutz in there. We might have to take that reservoir off of there. All right, so the engine is as expected, really, for an old car that's been sitting around. I think she may have had a cold start too many. Hopefully that's what that is, and it's not just puking fuel into the oil. Time to find out what the fuel situation's like. Somebody didn't bother locking the fuel cap. Wow. It is a Ford, and therefore it's got 60,000 keys. Is it you? Here's him. The seal's in good nick, so I don't think we've had much water ingress. The vehicle has sat indoors, but that doesn't mean moisture can't get in. Let's see if we've got any fuel in there. Certainly sounds that way. The question is, what's the fuel like? We need to drain the fuel. Okay. All right, time for us to get a look in the boot, see if there's anything useful in there. Oh, we got a tool bag. Look at that. Original jack, and that's it. Oh, the tank actually looks pretty easy to get to. Foreshadowing. Look at that. Right. Okay. The adhesive is off the tank. I'm not seeing a drain plug, so we're gonna have to go old school. Good news is, I'm from a little village called Berensfield. I'll have that out there in a jiffy. All right, time for a pedal check. I love this cockpit style instrument cluster as well, very cool. What a lovely place to be. Got the little pockets down there for keeping maps in. Matte pockets. Gorgeous chocolate brown interior. Look at the seats. They are beautiful. Yes, those are period correct Goodman speakers. Awesome old sharp stereo cassette deck. Just coming down to this amazing period correct Kenlo fan switch. Wow. We've got our pedals. Let's try the brake pedal. Oh, just enough movement to know that things aren't locked up, but not so much where it feels like there's loads of air in the line, so that's great. I don't think there's any bulging flexes or anything. Clutch. Oh, clutch feels, wow, it's got a powerful return spring on it. Shift these big old honking size 13s right out of the way. Throttle pedal. Yeah, lovely. Okay, nothing feels seized up. Switch gear. It's a horn. Yeah, a little bit mushy, but that's fine for a Ford of this era. Oh yeah. Wow. Oh, the switch gear feels fantastic. Lovely, nothing's sticking or seized. That's the heated rear window. Methanol injection, definitely. Okay, yep, everything feels in really good order. It's just checking. It's all these little bits that are going to catch you out later. When you tell a customer the car's ready, and you go, actually, I need another day to figure out what this problem is. So, what's the gearbox feel like? Oh, forget about it. Get out of town. That is fantastic. Lovely, beautiful clock there. Even got the period correct cigarette lighter. Has it been smoked in? I'd say it probably has. Good. It's a 70s Capri, of course it's been smoked in. If it hasn't been smoked in, you're lying to me. Vinyl roof is just gorgeous. There's those Goodman speakers. How's that for period correct? Locking wheel nut with a key. Just looking through those row styles. Look like we got some nice refurbished calipers. Just a little Scotia surface rust, which is what you'd expect to see. Right, enough fawning, Kyle, we've got work to do. Having a look down in there, apparently this battery has charge. I'm not convinced by that. Excuse me, madam, do you electricity? Nada. Explain to me your volts. 2.4. Before we even think about messing around with the electrical system, we need to get the fluids drained out. I've got to get some parts on order. So we need K&N filter, oil and cleaner. We need an oil filter and oil. A set of plugs couldn't hurt. I may order a carburettor rebuild kit just to be ready for it, because if not on this, then I can use it on something else. And you just know, if I don't order one, the carburettor will need rebuilding. That's another delay. Let's get that sorted out. We need some fuel. At that point, we can set the battery boiler on the battery, get ourselves some volts, do a systems check, and then I vote, book it in for MOT, see what she needs. I got a hunch it might not be much. Right, I'll see you back here right about now. Okay, we've got parts. We've not got all the parts, but we've got enough parts to make a move. We've got oil, oil filter, brake fluid. We've also got a priming bulb. What's that going to be for? I'm going to siphon the fuel out of this after the fuel pump. The idea being, not only are we pulling as much fuel as we need to out of the tank to replace it with nice fresh fuel, we're also pulling it through all the fuel lines. We're pulling it through the fuel pump, up and out. So the entire system theoretically should be getting cleaned out at the same time. And then that's just replaced with nice fresh fuel. I've got good news. The hose is nice and high up and easy to get to. Cool old tool time. So these are lock-in pliers. Speedtog plier clamps. What I like about these is they exert a nice flat, even force on fuel hoses. So I know they do the plastic ones, but I don't know, something about them, they sort of pinch rather than squash. Another point, I can see us putting fuel hoses in this because everything feels very smushy. I don't know how old the restoration is on this car, so it could well be that they're not ethanol compliant. There we go. It's been on there a long time. You just got to be a bit patient. Someone woke you up at 4 in the morning and told you go and run a marathon, you'd be a little bit irritated about it. For all I know, if somebody woke you up early in the morning, you'd leak petrol everywhere too. Off we come. This is a primer bulb. As you can hear, it farts in 2 different directions, which, I mean, I really wish I could do. The way these work is really quite simple. When you squeeze this, it purges air out of this side and then creates a vacuum here. So when you let off, it sucks fuel in. So this end is going to go on our fuel line. This end, we're going to stick in a petrol can. Now's a good opportunity to take a look at the condition of the fuel and potentially the fuel lines. So I've got just a bottle. And I just want a sample of the fuel initially, and also it will tell us if things are working. So you'll be able to get a good look at this. Already sucking fuel. Here we go. You might say, I've got an electric Milwaukee pump that cost me a mere £575,000 and it will get this fuel out of here in 2 seconds flat. That's fine, good for you. I take my time with stuff like this because we could spot something now that saves us some hassle later. We can be doing other stuff while this drains down. The important thing with waking any car up is doing it at the car's pace. I think we're good. I think we caught this fuel just in time. It's stale, but it hasn't started to go overly greasy yet. There's definitely something to it more than petrol now, but I think we caught it just before it turned into varnish. So now we know we haven't got honking great lumps of fuel pump diaphragm floating in there, and we know our fuel pump's probably okay. We can now go from before the fuel pump, where there's going to be less resistance, drain the system down that way. With our nice strong siphon on the go, while the fuel drained, I decided it was time to turn my attention to the sump plug, which, yeah. That sump plug was barely nipped up. Okay. That's interesting. Right, we're gonna have a look at the sump plug. As you can see, the oil's black, but there's no big tufts of bearing shell or anything like that, which is good. That's our first 5 litres pulled. As you can hear, the siphon's still strong. That took barely any time at all. In the time it took me to get under there and pop the sump plug, it had dumped 5 litres out. So, all right, the siphoning's stopped into the fuel cans, and sure enough, we're pulling air now. We got probably, I would say, about 12 litres of fuel out of the car. So we're going to replace that with about 20 litres of fresh, clean fuel. That will dilute everything down. We'll let the fuel filter do its job. With the oil change completed and all the fuel drained out, awaiting some nice fresh stuff, I decided it was time to turn my attention to the battery, and that began a little bit of a fist fight, shall we say. The battery voltage was so low that my battery boiler couldn't even recognise that there was a battery there, so I had to think outside the box. It's not even thinking. I had this once before. We should see a reading on the battery boiler in a moment. We'll see if it will run. Right, you're probably asking, what did I just do there? This guy is one of my hardest workers, and we've woken up so many cars together. He is, however, thicker than treacle in a frost. So what you have to do, if the battery's too flat like that, you put it on, then you connect another battery up in tandem, just so this sees that there's a battery there. You can then tell him to start charging. Once that happens, everything's cool. He's just gonna sit there now and wake that battery up. Coffee time. Unfortunately, the battery boiler has been going for a fair shake at this point. What we're gonna do first and foremost, I've disconnected the live to the coil. We're just gonna pinch a battery, jump start this old school. I wanna crank the engine over, fill the oil filter and build oil pressure just to make sure there's a nice slosh of oil around everything. That should also prime our fuel system, and then fingers crossed when the engine starts we'll get a nice fat charge out of the alternator. The engine's going to sit here idling anyway while everything slowly warms up, so hopefully the old girl will wake up in tandem. I'm hearing ticking, which means the clock's working. Have we got dash lights? Oh, we have. Something ain't right here. While inspecting the starter motor connections, I noticed the unmistakable and deeply concerning sound of boiling electrolyte inside the battery. I know I make jokes about my charger being a battery boiler, but it should never just sit there idly doing that. Time to tread very, very carefully. Something doesn't feel right. So before I push my luck and end up doing something stupid, it's clearly was a brand new battery when it was put in, but it's been connected the whole time, so just checking for any... There's a warm spot back here. So there's something wrong with this battery. I've recharged a lot of batteries that have been sitting for a long time. Don't normally have that much grief, but this battery's not happy at all. Bugger. Okay, we're on the road. We're going battery hunting. So basically, the battery on a Ford Capri is what's known as an 097. Now, you can get them online, fine, yep. It's Thursday today, tomorrow's Friday. That battery doesn't show up until tomorrow afternoon, tail end, and we discover once we get the engine to start that there's something wrong, if the engine even starts. We've then got the weekend to contend with as far as getting what we need. Slows us down. That's 3 days lost. And unlike working on modern stuff that's current and supported, I can't just buzz a company and have them bring me a part on a van within 3 hours. Quite cool, actually. Working on old cars means that sometimes you have to do things the old-fashioned way. So jumped in the car, off down to Halfords, because if they don't, they'll probably know someone who does. What's one of the biggest retailers for batteries in the country? Halfords. chances are there's a few Ford Capris knocking about. Someone's going to have gone in there and been disappointed to find that they haven't got them. Sure enough, they don't stock them, haven't done for a long time. Do you guys happen to know anybody who does? Yeah, there's a place just up the road called CR Marks. I've dealt with CR Marks in the past, but I didn't know this branch was there. I'm telling you, I walked in there, it was like a time capsule. It was like going back 30 years in the best way possible. Proper parts place with stuff in it. Amazing. Anyway, says to the old boys behind the counter, have you got any 097s? And one of them was like, get out. No, I ain't seen an 097 in a long time. Let me have a look on the system. Had a look. Oh, Whitney branch is showing 2 in stock. Give us a sec. And he buzzed him, because you're dealing with a person rather than a computer that would just say, no, we ain't got any, sorry. Rang his mate. He even thought to ask the old boy at the Whitney branch, is it charged? Lo and behold, there's one on the shelf. I'm on the way to get it now, and it's fully charged and brand new. And it's the same price as if I ordered it off of the internet and then had to wait for it to show up and the old sorry we missed your tickets and all that stuff. This gets us a battery today. This gets us potential issues with the engine found out today, when there's still time to do something about it before the weekend. Old school parts places. One of my favourite things in the world. Sweet, package is secured. On the way back to the workshop now. Man, you just can't make it up. They had the battery just sat waiting for me, ready to go. They knew it was exactly how much they said it was going to be. Job's a good one. Job's a good one. I'll see you back at the workshop. CR Marks. Thank you, fellas. You got me right out of it. Let's go. Time to start taking bets. What do we think? First flick of the key? A little bit grumbly, or are we about to be in for a night of it? Because I am not leaving here now until this car runs. I can smell it. It's palpable how close we are. Fords can be a little bit fussy when they want to be, put it that way. But this one, I don't know. Just something about the old girl. Seems like a friendly car. Keep an eye on that one. I tell you, the cranking's really even. There we go. Okay, you notice how the engine started to labour as it built oil pressure. That's a good sign. That means that's just pulled that oil up, filled the filter, and it's forcing it around everything. Moment of truth. No time like the present. No matter how much I love it and how much of this I do, I always get nervous. Coil is connected. We're hot. I'm just going to give her a little whiff of cold start. Pull the choke out. See what she says. All right, my duck. No way. Pull the choke out, lock it off. All right, maybe a little bit of cold start again. That was, I mean, the tune must be spot on. That was just boof. Don't despair for the K&M filter. We are cleaning and oiling it after this. A little bit less choke, a little bit more throttle. Interesting. Nothing at all now. We may be flooding slightly. That's all right, take your time, there's no hurry. Crazy how promptly that fired then. Quick leak check, make sure there's no petrol spraying everywhere. No, we're okay. There's no gopping great puddles of oil on the floor or anything like that. And we've got great oil pressure, so we know we're all right there. I'm not gonna give it any more cold start. I don't wanna flood it. Let's try just no choke and a little bit of throttle. I think she will. Nearly. You can do it, come on. Come on. All right. I don't want to beat the shit out of the starter motor. I'll give it everything a minute to cool off. Once it starts, I've got every confidence that alternator is going to do its job. Just going to have a quick look around, a little sniff. The starter's not even warm, so we're not straining the starter motor. The battery isn't warm. You're just groggy, I get it. I'm the same in the morning, don't you worry. Smelling fuely, so I'm going to ease off with the chokes. There we go. You can do it. The compression sounds fantastically even. Oh! Come on, you can do it. Yes! Oh my God, listen to it. All right, all seems fairly well so far. We have a warning light on the dash. I'm just going to ease the choke in slightly. Gently. About 1200 ought to do it. Right, is that warning a handbrake light warning? Yeah, that's a handbrake warning light there, so don't worry about that. Oil pressure's fantastic. Showing about 1/4 tank of fuel. Literally just going to roll the throttle in a minute, just make sure the alternator's working. It seems quite well balanced. We're not in the discharge section, so a little bit of a stumble. That's okay. Like I say, we're not here to take it round the ring at 7,000 RPM. Choke all the way in. Is she going to idle? Yes! What a delicious burble. That sounds fantastic. We're a little on the tappety side, that's to be expected. This engine hasn't run in God knows how long. A quick peek underneath. All good. Do you know, she runs quite nicely for a car that's been sitting so long. Well, that's off the choke. Superb. There's a slight splutter there. It might come around as it warms up. That's it now. I'm not going to disturb her. We're going to let her come up to temperature. Well done. So far so good. We just got to babysit now. We go at the car's pace. We're idling until we come slowly up to temperature. That lets everything settle down. Our amp meter is just above the flat line, which is perfect. It's just feeding a little bit of charge in, which makes sense because obviously we were kicking the daylights out of that starter motor for a minute. We're coming up off of the bottom of the temp gauge. Let her eat. Do our telltales work? Yep, there's our high beam telltale. Yep, indicator relay just needed to charge up. That's not uncommon on these older cars. I, like you, we're going to get on just fine over the next few years, I think. For anybody out there not around classic Fords, by the way, you want to see something that is far cooler than it's got any right to be. So when you turn the side lights on, the illumination comes on. A bit hard to see with the flash, but still. And then when you want to put the headlights on, you put the headlights on. Turn the headlights off, you go back to side lights. Now, what's really cool, when you press the headlight switch with the side light switch off, it pushes them both down, and then if you press the side light switch, it turns the headlight switch off. That's amazing. It's so nice feeling a car that's been silent come to life. All right, we're coming up off the cold. Little bit of revs, not much. Check for any misfires or backfiring. A little bit more. And off again. That's all we needed to know. She's running fine. I think she's running a little rich, but we'll see. Oil pressure is just solid. Absolutely over the moon. Does the fan work? Yep. A bit squeaky. Oh, there we go. We're running full chat now. Yep. Okay, wind that over to hot. Surely not. The heater bloody works. Go figure. Jesus. I love fold away. That is a lovely little feature as well. We're nearly up to normal op, and the oil pressure still has not moved. Not much to see for the rest of the evening. I'm going to let the old girl idle until she's up to temp, turn everything off, let her slowly cool down again. Then tomorrow we'll start it again, and at that point I'm going to see if she moves, going to check for lights and all that sort of stuff. You guys can give me a hand with that. So yeah, I'll see you in the morning. Alrighty, today's Friday. Just spoke to the guys over the back of me that do MOTs, and we're booked in for Monday. So time for a quick systems check. Rude not to. Good to make sure it's not going to fail on something daft like a side light bulb being down or an indicator playing up. The first thing we need to do before any of that is see if we're feeling like firing up again this morning. Just a Scotia choke. We don't want to go mad. We've got lights. That's good. Oh, okay. A little more choke. Obviously, I'm still getting to know the car. Just butter. Right, ease the choke in a little. Oh, too far. Alright, just going to ease the choke in a little. Don't like running cars on full choke unless I absolutely have to. That sounds about right. We seem happy. Okay. Nice. Okay, I need you guys to let me know, alright? So, you let me know in the comments. That'd be great. Can you come down off a choke? That'll do nicely, I think. Oh. Not quite ready to be off choke. Okay, that's fine. Alright guys, we're going for side lights. What have we got? Yes? No? I can't hear you. Headlights? We got headlights. Okay, full beam. Well, the flash works. Push away from you for high beam. Yep. Horn. Horn works. All right, that's a good thing. Fog light. Left indicator. Right indicator. Cheers, guys. Nice. The telltales work. Marvellous. I'm sorry in advance to the owner. This car has never seen rain in his ownership. We need to test if the screen wash works. Screen wash? Okay. Wiper. Yep. That's all I need to know. The wiper works. I'm not getting any washer jets. Multimeter required. I'm gonna just operate the button. You guys let me know what the voltage is, okay? While trying to open the passenger door for the first time in order to be able to reach the button so that I could see the multimeter, the passenger door, it turns out, is seized completely solid. The latch wouldn't move, the inner handle wouldn't move, the door pin wouldn't move, the key wouldn't turn in the lock. Side quest unlocked. Here we go. It's seized. Completely seized. Good. That's great. I tried pulling up on the lock pin and that's seized as well. Obviously I don't want to force it and break it. Yep, so there is a separate passenger door key. It is for this door, but it doesn't like it. Okay, we'll blast some penetrant in there and come back. Ah! Uh-huh. Right, what was that about then? Sheer lack of use. Just going to set to with a maintenance spray until that works, I think. sometimes all you need is a little bit of penetrating spray fired at the right spot on the car. Very nice. I thought we were going to be into pulling the door card and stuff off then. Back to the washer pump. After that little detour, I believe we're on the live there. We're earthed out to the battery, so let's give the old button a push and see what we got. Anything? I'm no washer motorologist. I'm pretty sure that should be doing something when you give it voltage. Well, we know we're getting voltage to it. That's our earth. What is that? Is that just earth to the body by any chance? Yeah, here it comes. So, old Captain Crimp connector strikes again. So in order for this to work, you need an earth, and lazily poking it down the back of a plastic housing onto a painted strut tower is not the correct way to do that. What sort of, it's a Philippe. Let's undo the bracket, see what we got. We need to make sure that that is a solid ground to that. We can't be having our washer pump intermittently working when it shows up for MOT. That's just going to make me look like a goofball. Do you know what I mean? Washers are, that's basics. What we got? Well, the screw is already very rusty, so that's not really going to be conducting much to earth anyway. What's behind that? Yeah, that's a little bit claggy. It's not rotten or anything, just a bit of surface rust, obviously. This needs cleaned up so that the terminal will do its job. Clean the terminal while we're there. Back in a hot minute. Just gonna emery it. Sorry, old girl, I didn't do this. Might have been factory, in fairness. Let's try it. Get on me, fucking guy. And then this guy hustles around the back here. Oh, that sounded like it primed up then. Yes! I think that's the best it's gonna be. We're gonna have to see what they say at the MOT, but obviously 70s washer jets aren't exactly scientific. They go the windscreen, so, and onto the vinyl top as well, it would seem. Do you fancy giving me a hand just checking the rear lights? Well, there's no need to be like that. I'm sorry. I was just asking. I know you've got a lot going on, but so have I. I just need to do this, and then it's off for MOT, and you can go to the pub. Thank you, appreciate it. We got tail lights? Cool. Have we got brake lights? Sweet, that's the right indicator. No, don't get up, it's cool. I can see the left indicator flashing, that's fine. Well, that all sounds pretty good. Not bad. That was a long old sleep, in fairness. If I slept for 5 years, my headlights wouldn't work. MOT Monday morning. I trust those guys implicitly. We've done all the basics. The engine runs. It's going round there to come back with a list, if anything. Their brake rollers will tell us exactly what's binding and all that stuff. We'll reconvene after the MOT on Monday and see how much further we need to go with that side of things. It's MOT time. Last thing to do now is just see if we'll move under our own steam. Yes! Very good. Do we have reverse? Okay, let's go. I'll see you back here in a few minutes. I don't want to undermine your confidence, but that was pants. That was pants. It failed on some very strange things. So, despite being fully restored, very clearly well put together, the near side front headlight should be, but it's not the end of the world. We'll move on. The passenger seatbelt doesn't work. It's locked solid. Why? I don't know. Presumably lack of use. Obviously the passenger door was seized shut, so it stands to reason that no one's pulled that seatbelt out in a long time, so maybe that's why it's seized up. Anybody's guess. So we're gonna have to figure out what's wrong with a 50-year-old inertia reel seatbelt. Excellent news. Someone decided to break down in the MOT bay, didn't they? So thanks for that. That caused a lot of stress. Initially, we thought that it had run out of fuel despite it having had 20 litres in it. So I drove like a nutcase to the Shell garage, got another 10 litres straight in there, and it burst into life for a second and then stalled again, and it's now refusing to idle. Great fun. Also, when they reversed onto the brake rollers, the passenger rear foot brake wasn't working. Then it suddenly was working very, very well, and then refused to stop working. So we've got a binding rear brake on the passenger side. The handbrake, however, is spot on, so that's good. Maybe a wheel cylinder, something like that. Possibly lack of grease on the backing plates, or just dry, claggy grease. But my chief concern is this stalling thing. You were there, you'll vouch for me, right? Thank you, appreciate that. It ran perfectly in here, and now for some reason, she just doesn't want to idle. I'm gonna make that a priority because all the other stuff is a moot point. If the car doesn't run and drive, the MOT is pointless. And the guys were so accommodating, really understanding, but I felt awful about the fact that it broke down on the ramp. That's a no-no. You never ever hold up your MOT inspector. Even if they're nice about it, it's something you should always feel bad about because they got work to do. Okay, what's a regular thing I tell you guys about when you've got a running problem with the carburetor? Let's check for air leaks. If we now pump the throttle a couple of times, you'll find it'll probably run faster. And then it's going to want to stall on us. Once it uses up that fuel, here it goes. Ow. Let me show you what I'm doing. I'm sending fuel in as a throttle spindle. So why does this happen? Well, quite simply, air's getting in where it shouldn't be. Carburetors work on vacuum, and at idle, the engine's pulling a lot of vacuum because the throttle's closed. The engine is trying to pull air in. It's actually creating an area of negative pressure, if you want to be about it. As the pistons are moving up and down in the bores with the throttle closed, it wants to breathe and can't, hence throttle. When you've got your idle set up correctly with no air leaks, vacuum is able to pull the small amount of fuel needed to keep the engine running through the idle passages. When you get an air leak, obviously the engine effectively goes massively lean. Now, this works a bit like an air bypass valve. So when you get an air leak, there's more air coming in, i.e. it's almost as though you've opened the throttle. But because there isn't enough fuel to compensate for that, the engine runs rough. The way you get around it is to enrich the mixture. With a rich mixture, there's a lot more fuel coming in, which meets up with that air, which explains why you will get an idle. It will be dog rich, there'll be loads of wasted fuel, it stinks, it's bad for fuel economy, and you'll find the engine doesn't actually run that well either, because there is a period of time where the idle mixture has a say in your part throttle mixture too. If it's running too rich, you'll find it will bog or splutter. So we've got an air leak. There's multiple places it could be. Webers are generally all right for throttle spindle leaks, so I'm interested to see if it is actually the throttle spindle or if it's the base of the carburetor. We found an air leak. Result. We've got to rebuild the carburetor anyway, and now we know what to look for. The reason I did that on the vehicle is because you've got no way of knowing when the carburetor's off the vehicle if anything of what you've done has actually achieved anything. Now we know. We can also look at changing the gaskets on the bottom of the carburetor between the carb and the intake manifold, as well as the phenolic resin block, which acts as a heat insulator between the carburetor and the engine, so that the heat from the engine doesn't evaporate all the fuel and vapor lock the carb. We can go through all of that in one go once we've got the carburetor off. A leaking throttle spindle on one of these normally means that it needs new bushes. They've got these little Teflon inserts that go into the body of the carburetor, and that helps to seal and lubricate the spindle. Those are on order. Not much we can do about that right now. So let's take a look at our headlight aim. Headlight aim's fairly straightforward on most cars, to be fair. You've got a sort of left and right adjustment and an up and down adjustment, and the trick is to line the headlights up with a flat surface so that you can see the beam pattern, which is actually a fairly straight line. You want to make sure that the headlights are even and pointing not too high, not too low, and you also want to bias them over towards the ditch slightly so that you don't dazzle oncoming drivers. Right, seatbelt. Yeah, this seatbelt, this is a bit of an odd one. As you can see, sure enough, the guys are right, she ain't working. Essex. Oh no, Essex, Sweden. There's me thinking, oh my God, would you believe it? Right, the inertia reel works. We'll go all the way back out. Actually, wowzer, that inertia reel is really good. Yet again, sheer lack of use. Drive your cars, folks. Okay, it's a little bit less lonely in here today. Got my lovely wife finally catching up on admin after a very hectic period of moving in where I just needed to get the place rolling. So that's nice. Lacey's watching people screaming at each other, playing games on YouTube, and Logan is rebuilding a Zenith Peerberg 2B, ready to put on Gladys. So carburetor parts are finally here, so let's get the carburetor out of this thing and finally, hopefully, solve the air leak. As we can see, there is neat fuel there, which is a bad time. Our phenolic resin block actually looks okay. So this will be a crankcase breather, but why there's petrol all over here? Why could that be? Could that possibly be our throttle spindles? Where the engine's been running way too rich. Smells of stale fuel too. That'll be it. Even just from an initial thing, that's not going to be helping matters, is it? So that's our feed for the distributor vacuum advance. We'll replace that. So something that's interesting about these carburetors, at least to me, probably not to you, but what can I say? Sorry. Is yes, this is a twin choke carb, but it's not progressive. So on a progressive carburetor, you would have part throttle and what have you would be taken care of by a single butterfly. And then when you send it, both open. This is a parallel carburetor. So these work in tandem. And if you look there, you can see both throttle butterflies open at the same time, and that accelerator pump's working, isn't it? Wow! Gotcha, okay. Well, that's lunch sorted. I'll get the top off of this, and we'll dump out the fuel in the float bowl and see if we can get these throttle spindles out. I'm really looking forward to clocking them. That's going to be great. That was fairly straightforward. Actually, it was a... just driving to the sea. So, I've put some cold start down the carburetor. Hopefully, we will start and run properly. Oof. Oh, listen to that idle. Let's have a little spritz around, make sure we haven't got any slight air leaks still. Nothing. Do you know there's no change in the engine speed there? Cool. That's just night and day. So before we go off for MOT, I thought it'd be a good idea to rectify this coolant situation because the vehicle's taken ages to warm up. I've drained the coolant and managed to get one thermostat bolt out. This guy is not happy. Still, at least it's not integral to the intake manifold, right? So we're going to put something on that, give it a coffee, maybe a coffee and a half, and see if it will free off, because it's a blind hole. You can't get up behind it. Capris, man, they all do it. They all do it. Why have I got Mr. Blue Sky by ELO stuck in my head? Because it's a damn good song, that's why. I can see the head moving, but I'm not feeling this one bit. I can see myself getting the tap and die set out in a minute. I pride myself on the fact that I very, 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 very rarely break bolts. Very rarely have trouble getting seized fasteners out. But after trying every trick in the book that I had, up my sleeve, down the back of my shirt, whatever it is, I had to resign myself to the fact you can't win them all. It's either going to snap or it's going to come undone. I think it's going to snap, yeah. Yep. Although, the good news is, it's sheared off below the level of the housing. So we can just go ahead and drill it out. You can't win them all, folks. There comes a point where you just have to be like, this is going to break. In fact, I feel even better about it because you can see there's actually corrosion inside the surface of the bolt, which means that had already started to fail. So, never mind. Yeah, man. I think that's probably part of the problem. What do we think? Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, even if that is not sticking, that needs to come out, because that needs to come out. Wow, that's howling. Good, very good. An 88-degree thermostat in, we're putting an 82 in anyway. So, garbage. Oh, that was rough. Okay, so I had to go up a thread size. Just, that was a whole thing. All right, so now we can clear out the cooling system. Once that's done, we can fit the thermostat and the thermostat housing. We can top this off with nice new coolant. And then we get to clean the engine down because obviously sprays and stuff happened. And then, yeah, I think we're finally bloody done. Okay, last part of the job was to set to that with a reamer. It is actually a much tidier job than it looks. There's bits of schmoo in there at the minute, but got our new fastener. Oof, that's the good stuff. Yes! We have got ourselves an MOT. Well done. It was a bit of a scrap, but we got there, right? Clean sheet, no advisories. Happy days. Interesting factoid for you, the last MOT on this vehicle was in 2017. So she's been off the road for 8 years. Really, when you think about it, 8 years to need throttle spindle, new fuel, knickknacks, really. That's pretty impressive. Idle's a little high, I can adjust that. Little bit of a beans. Oh, that drives beautifully. Yep, I'll take it. That's great. There we go. Just a quick clean up now and off back to the owner. I hope you've enjoyed this little journey through waking up an old Ford Capri. If you have enjoyed it, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. I also offer super thanks and memberships on this channel where you'll get access to extra features, extra footage, and we do a live stream as well, which is always a good laugh. So hopefully I'll see you around. Thanks for watching.